Amidst the current migrant crisis in the Bay State, shelters in the region are also starting to see the growing need for those seeking a warm bed during the winter months. Western Mass News reporter Glenn Kittle is getting answers on the current situation and what one local lawmaker says needs to happen now.
Migrant shelters across our region are already overflowing with migrant families. The state legislature hopes the $250 million included in their latest budget can help migrants get out of the emergency assistance placement program and get on their own 2 feet.
Taking a look at the latest numbers from the Commonwealth shelter system, just over 7,500 families are currently enrolled in the state's emergency shelter system as of December 22nd. That number is right up against the cap imposed by Governor Maura Healey this past fall. Taking a look at numbers released last week by Healey's administration, we can see how many of those families are staying in Western Mass. Some of the places that have taken on the most migrants include Springfield, West Springfield, Holyoke, Hadley, and Greenfield. State Senator John Vilas tells Western Mass News he anticipates the current homeless population combined with the migrant crisis could create issues for shelters as more people seek a warm bed in the cold winter months.
Status quo is unsustainable, right? We just don't have the money to do this indefinitely without a serious cost to the other programs that are in this Commonwealth right now.
Last month, the state legislature passed a budget that provided $250 million to fund programs for migrants seeking support. Vilas takes us through how these provisions may help migrants get out of the shelter system and into a home.
The resettlement agencies, the welcoming organizations for the migrant population, and those organizations do great work. We need to continue to do that, even in times where we don't have this migrant crisis. They've thus done really, really good things. In fact, very personally speaking, they were incredibly helpful to my linguist that I served with in Afghanistan.
Vilas adds Governor Healey estimated funding the migrant crisis would cost the state $900 million in the next fiscal year. He's calling for state leaders to find ways to solve this issue before it turns into a Bay State budget crisis.
We don't have the money to do that. We just do not, period, end of story. So we need to have some really hard discussions. And I think for any lawmaker, again, that is the most important conversation and debate we need to have beginning next week, beginning now.
Reporting for Western Mass News, I'm Glenn Kittle.